morning, children. Today we are going to see the second lesson in 7th standard history, New Kings and Kingdoms. Okay. Kingdoms between 7th and 12th century. In this class, we are going to see the emergence of new dynasties, then rise of Rashtrakutas, then administration in the kingdoms, then prashastis and land grants. Okay, see children, in this chapter, actually this is new to you. See children, you know very well how our earlier ancestors lived, right? You know, everyone were living equally. But with times, few changes happened. You know, certain people started dominating others. And again with time, what happened? Slowly these people who were dominant, they started establishing themselves as the most superior, which we call as a kind of ruler, a king. That's how multiple kings and kingdoms evolved in 7th and 12th century. Okay. So today we are going to see what are the different kings and kingdoms, the rulers who came or who established themselves during 7th and 12th century. Okay. See children, it's very interesting. You know, the reason is we know right now people live equally. Then suddenly how did kings come into power? So today we will see how it all happened. Okay. See children, many kingdoms emerged across the subcontinent in the 7th century. I think you may have heard of the Cheras, Cholas, Pandyas and Pallavas in Tamil, right? Because see, we can say Tanjore Pragadiswara temple is the best example of Cholas art and architecture. At the same time, Mahabalipuram Radha temple, the seashore temple, is the best examples of Pallavas architecture, right? Likewise, now we shall see about the rise of similar kingdoms in North India. So, we will see the rise of many kingdoms, their administration and their military expansion. Okay. See, if you take the lesson New Kings and Kingdoms in your history book, in the first page of the lesson, you will notice a map. In this map, you can see many important kingdoms such as Gurjara Pradikaras, Palas, Rashtrakutas, Cholas and many others. In fact, Gurjara Pradikaras ruled Gujarat and Rajasthan. See, name itself shows Gurjara Pradikaras, Gujarat and Rajasthan. So, Gurjara Pradikaras ruled over Gujarat and Rajasthan. Where did they rule? Gurjara Pradikaras ruled Gujarat and Rajasthan. Then Rashtrakutas. Rashtrakutas ruled where? Western Deccan, the western part of Deccan Plateau. Next, Palas. Palas dynasty ruled Bengal. Okay. Then Cholas, obviously we know Cholas ruled in Tamil Nadu, right? Then Kannauj. Kannauj also was a important kingdom, major kingdom, one of the major kingdoms. Okay. So, kingdoms between 7th and 12th century, there were 4 major kingdoms. What were they? Gurjara Pradikaras. Gurjara Pradikaras ruled Gujarat and Rajasthan. Then Rashtrakutas ruled the western part of Deccan. Then Kannauj. Then Palas. Palas ruled over Bengal, isn't it? Then Cholas. Cholas ruled in Tamil Nadu. Now we will see about these kingdoms individually. See, now let's see the emergence of new dynasties. See how it all started. People in different regions of the Indian subcontinent, you find people who had a lot of land, they were landlords. See, they owned huge amount of land, so they were called landlords. So who were called landlords? People who had a lot of land or they owned huge amount of land were called landlords. So children, the rulers, the small kings, at that time they were in need of these landlords. See, the kings and the rulers needed the help of the landlords or warriors or warrior chiefs in different regions of the subcontinent. See, do you know the meaning of warrior chiefs, children? Warrior chiefs means nothing but people who led their army to the war front. So they are called warrior chiefs. Why did they help the kings? Because they owned huge amount of land, isn't it? Then, in fact, I tell you an example. They were like investors for kings. Why? Because they acknowledged by the kings as their subordinates or samantas. It means acknowledged means recognized. அவங்க வந்துட்டு what did they feel? The kings acknowledged the landlords. How? Samantas or subordinates. Subordinates, you know the meaning of subordinates. They work with them they helped to the kings, so that the kings acknowledged landlords as subordinates or samantas. So here I tell you, samantas means nothing but it denotes the landlords. Okay, landlords, you know who were called landlords? A huge amount of lands owned by them, so they were called some landlords, and they helped to kings generally. In fact, at present also our government needs help of all big landlords. In other words, we can say industrialists like Tatas, Ambanis, Adanis, etc. because they are big industrialists. That's why I told you. See, if government brings any policies regarding industries, the government will discuss with the industrialists and whether it is right or wrong and whether it is really beneficial for them or not, like that. And also they are the taxpayers, big industrialists or taxpayers, so that at present also government needs the help of landlords as well as big industrialists. So the same thing happened those days. In earlier, what at present happens, it followed in the earlier time also. So the landlords used to help the kings. So the landlords were called samandas or subordinates. It was recognized, it was acknowledged by whom? The rulers, the kings. Okay, so who were landlords, you know. Then who were called samandas? See children, why we discussed about samandas, why we discussed about landlords? Because from here only new kingdoms emerged in 7th and in between of 7th and 12th century. That's why initially I gave an intro of landlords. So you should understand about samantas. Why? Because so these landlords or these samantas were expected to bring gifts for the kings or overlords. Overlords means kings, they are superior. So, and provide them with military support also. So basically what they said, samantas, if we take one village, there is, otherwise if we take one certain areas, there were landlords, they were also called samantas. That samantas were expected to bring more gifts for their rulers, and not only gifts but also they had to support, they had to give military support. So that samantas, what was the duty of samantas? Samantas duty was to bring more and more gifts for their overlords or rulers. Okay, not only gifts but also should provide military support. Isn't it? Yes. See children, you may ask why, how did the Samantas bring gifts? Because generally landlords will do trade. So they used to go here and there, and they used to visit so many places. So they keep getting gifts for their kings, and also provide military support, because landlords had a lot of people under them, so that gifts as well as means financial support, gifts as well as military support provided by whom? Samantas. To whom they provided? To the rulers, to their overlords, to their kings. Got it? So Samantas, they used to go so many places, so they used to keep getting gifts for their kings and also provide military support. See children, at one point in time, these Samantas or these landlords declared themselves to be Mahasamantas. What did they declare themselves? Mahasamanta, and not only Mahasamanta but also Mahamandaleshwara. What it means? Mahamandaleshwara means the great lord of a circle or region. The great lord of a circle, that area or region. So, who declared themselves as Mahasamanta or Mahamandaleshwara? Samantas. Basically, who were Samantas? They were big landlords or warrior chiefs in different regions. Got it? So, Samantas. Then after that they gained power and wealth. So, they declared themselves to be Mahasamanta, Mahamandaleshwara. So, Mahasamanta, Mahamandaleshwara, the name or the title declared by whom? Samantas. Then sometimes they asserted their independence from their overlords. Here only you should understand children. See, initially they were Samantas. After some time they declared themselves Mahasamanta and Mahamandaleshwara. After some times, what did they do? They asserted their independence. They asserted their autonomy. Means they declared themselves they were a king, and they asserted their independence from their overlords, from their rulers. So, one such examples were the landlord who were called Rashtrakutas in the Deccan. Now, let's see about mid 8th century. Okay. See, in that mid 8th century, new kingdoms emerged. Already we have discussed about Samantas, and they declared themselves Mahasamantas, Mahamandaleshwara. Like that, how they gained their power, then how they got independence from their overlords. For that I gave we will see one example. In that, Rashtrakutas emerged. How did they emerge, and how Rashtrakutas gained power from their overlords? Okay, now let's see. Rise of Rashtrakutas. See, Dandidurga was a Rashtrakuta chief. How now we will see about him only, because how did he come to power, and how he overthrew his lord, overthrew his king. Basically, the kingdom was founded by Dandidurga. So, Dandidurga was a Rashtrakuta chief. Actually, they were under the ruler of Chalukya. They were the they were the subordinates to the Chalukya. But after some times, Dandidurga overthrew the king. They overthrew his lordship, Chalukya. Then he became the king, and he established his kingdom. So, Dandidurga name, this is new to you. So, remember this. Dandidurga. Who was Dandidurga? Dandidurga was a Rashtrakuta chief. Why he was very important? Because Dandidurga overthrew the king and he started to sit in his place. So he overthrew the lordship of Chalukya. Then he became the king and he performed a ritual called typically Hiranyagarbha. See, Hiranyagarbha, this and all new to you. So you listen carefully. Who was Dandidurga? Dandidurga was a Rashtrakuta chief. Basically, Rashtrakuta was under the Chalukya dynasty. After that, after Dandidurga established his kingdom, how did he come to power? He overthrew his lord. He overthrew his king. Then he came to power. He established his power. So that, and also another important incident happened in his kingdom. What happened, you know? This Dandidurga did a ritual called Hiranyagarbha. Ritual name was Hiranyagarbha. It means literally the golden womb. So the ritual name was Hiranyagarbha. The meaning of the word is the golden womb. This ritual Hiranyagarbha was always performed with the help of Brahmanas, because basically they are Pandits and they used to chant mantras, Vedas, right? So that when this ritual was performed with the help of Brahmanas, it was thought to lead to the rebirth of the sacrificer as a Kshatriya, even if he was not one by birth. So, even if someone is not Kshatriya by birth, after performing this ritual Hiranyagarbha, the sacrificer successfully becomes a Kshatriya. Got it? Children, what do you mean by Kshatriyas? Kshatriya is nothing but, in the olden days, people who fought battles or who belonged to warrior class were known as Kshatriyas. So simply we can say they went to the war front to fight with enemies. Okay, soldiers, how we used to call soldiers, like that in the earlier times, who used to take arms, weapons in the battlefield, that people are known as Kshatriyas. Got it? So children, 2 points I told you. Again I recollect these points. One is Dandidurga, who was a Rashtrakuta chief. He how did he become a ruler? He overthrew his Chalukya kingdom, Chalukya dynasty at present in Karnataka, Chalukya of Karnataka. So Rashtrakuta chief Dandidurga overthrew his king, then he came into power. So Dandidurga, who was Dandidurga? Dandidurga was a Rashtrakuta chief. He was the founder of Rashtrakuta dynasty. Okay. Then very important significant event what happened. He performed a ritual called as Hiranyagarbha with the help of whom? Brahmanas. So Dandidurga was a Rashtrakuta chief and he performed a ritual called Hiranyagarbha with the help of Brahmanas. So, okay. Now let's see a rise of other kingdoms. See how we saw about Dandidurga became the king of, how he became the Rashtrakuta chief and how did he establish his kingdoms, right? Similarly, men from huge enterprising families, means means top high class families, people from top high class families use their military skills to create kingdoms of their own. So they used their money power and military power and they started to create new kingdom for their own. See, people from high class families, why did they do like this? Because they have power, they have wealth, that's why. See, I can tell you 2 examples. See, Kadamba Mayura Sharma from Karnataka and Gurjara Pratikara Harichandra from Rajasthan were Brahmanas. Basically, they were Brahmanas. But what did they do? They gave up their traditional professions, and they tried to establish a new kingdom. See, these two names are new to you, but if you read your books at home, then very soon it will be familiar to you. What are these two names? Kadamba Mayura Sharma from Karnataka, then Gurjara Pratikara Harichandra from Rajasthan. Already I have told you about Gurjara Pratikara dynasty. Gurjara Pratikara dynasty ruled over where? See, name itself shows, right? Gujarat and Rajasthan areas. So, Kadamba Mayura Sharman from Karnataka and the Gurjara Pratikara Harichandra from Rajasthan were basically Brahmanas. But what did they do? They gave up their traditional professions and took to arms, successfully established their kingdoms. So, these two names are very important, children. Don't forget it. Who gave up their traditional professions and who established their own kingdoms? Who were they? Kadamba Mayura Sharman from Karnataka and the Gurjara Pratikara Harichandra from Rajasthan. Okay? If you read it again and again, it will be very familiar to you. It will be easy to recollect it. Got it? Now, let's discuss about the administration in the kingdoms. Okay? See, children, many of these new kings adopted high sounding titles such as Maharaja, Adiraja, Great King, Overlord of Kings, then Tribhuvana Chakravartin, Lord of the Three Worlds, and so on. So, generally, those days, kings kept great titles for them to portray them as great people. And the title is Maharaja Adiraja and Tribhuvana Chakravartin. It means, see, Maharaja Adiraja means great king, then overlord of kings. At the same time, Tribhuvana Chakravartin means lord of the three worlds, and so on. So, children, you know the titles of the kings? What are they? Maharaja Adiraja and Tribhuvana Chakravartin, right? Then the kings often shared power with their samantas as well as with associations of peasants, traders, and brahmanas. See, the kings shared power with whom? Samantas as well as associations of peasants, traders, and brahmanas. Okay. See, even today, the government needs the help of agriculturists, businessmen, then great landlords or industrialists, right? Like that, it happened in the earlier days in the 8th century, mid of the 8th century. Okay, so at present, what happens exactly happened in earlier time. So, in each of these categories, resources, means source of incomes, were obtained from the producers, that is peasants. Peasants means farmers, right? Peasants, cattle keepers, artisans who were compelled to pay taxes. See, at present, we pay many taxes to the government, right? For example, water tax, land tax, income tax, right? Like that. Those time, what happened? The artisans, peasants, weavers, farmers produced products, right? In that, they paid half of their cultivation. They compelled to pay their products. Okay? And sometimes these were claimed as rent due to a lord who asserted that he owned the land. Actually, revenue was also collected from traders. Okay? So, how did the kingdom get money? They collected a part of a produce from different categories of people such as artisans, peasants, cattle keepers, isn't it? Whatever they produced, a portion of it is taken as rent. In this way, the kingdom collected money from different categories of people. Got it? See children, we saw about the multiple sources of revenue, right? See, why is revenue important? Why did the king collect tax or rent from different categories of people? So, why is revenue important? Let us see. See, very first, to finance to their own establishment and temples, right? Then to warfare also. If they declare war against their neighboring kingdoms, obviously the kings need money to pay their soldiers, right? So that purpose also they needed revenue sources. They needed revenue, so that to finance to their own establishment, to construct monuments, temples and forts, and also to warfare. So for all these things kings needed money, right? See children, we discussed about the importance of revenue, right? Okay, the revenue was collected by whom? The revenue was collected by people belonged to influential families. In fact, sometimes kings' close relatives were also appointed. Why? Because king felt that they are trustworthy, so that for the collecting purpose, for the collecting tax, who were appointed? King's close relatives or people from influential families were appointed to collect the taxes. Okay. See, now let's discuss about prasastis and land grants. I hope you have studied about prasastis in your 6th standard, right? Okay. Now let me explain you about prasastis and land grants. Actually, prasastis, what do you mean by prasastis? Prasastis are nothing but inscriptions, right? Actually, what poets write praising the king, like how you are great warrior, valiant, you are a victorious warrior, like. So they write so many things about kings, like a praising manner. So prasastis or inscriptions written by whom? Learned Brahmanas. So prasastis are inscriptions written by learned Brahmanas. Got it? And also prasastis tells us how rulers wanted to depict themselves as valiant and victorious warriors. So the poet also, the learned Brahmanas, wrote what the ruler wanted to depict himself. Okay, so prasastis tells us how rulers wanted to depict themselves as valiant and victorious warriors. Okay. See children, the word prasastis has been derived from Sanskrit. Prasasti means praise. Okay. See children, prasastis contain details that may not be literally true always. Sometimes it may be true, sometimes it may not be true. Okay children, let me ask you a question. Prasastis were composed by whom? Learned Brahmanas, right? But apart from this, generally kings took help from learned Brahmanas for administration. So, kings often rewarded them by grants of land. Actually, these were recorded on copper plates which were given to those who received the land. It's like our land registration. See, now we have a register office to land registration, right? But earlier they recorded on copper plates. So land registrations were done on copper plates. So interesting, isn't it? So the kings often rewarded Brahmanas by grants of land. These were recorded on copper plates. Okay. See children, one prasasti was found Actually, it was about the Pratihara king Nagabhatta. I hope you have studied about Nagabhatta in your 6th standard, right? Okay. And this Prasasti was written in Sanskrit. Okay. See children, now let's see about Kalhana, the court poet from Kashmir. Okay. See children, in the 12th century, unusual thing happened. What? A long Sanskrit poem was composed by court poet Kalhana. See, Kalhana belonged to Kashmir, right? See children, we can find a difference from here. What is the difference? Generally, Prasastis always praised the rulers, right? But Kalhana was great critic. He won't praise the king all the time. He criticized the king's policies also. And Kalhana wrote long poems in Sanskrit, don't forget it. Then he collected data from varieties of sources such as inscriptions, documents, eyewitness accounts and earlier histories. So he collected data from variety of sources. Okay, you know, he was not praising the king all the time. He also criticized the king's policies. Already I have told you, no? This is the difference between Prasastis and Kalhana's Sanskrit long poem. Okay. In fact, Kalhana wrote a book named Raja Tarangini. See children, Kalhana didn't expect any gifts, prizes, prize monies from kings. Whatever he felt at heart, just he wrote it. Children, now we will see about warfare for wealth. See, what do you mean by warfare? Actually, warfare is the activity of fighting a war. That is called warfare. So, for what purpose the neighboring kingdoms used to fight with each other? They wanted to establish their power, as well as they wanted to get more wealth from their other kingdoms. See children, you may have noticed that each of these ruling dynasties was based in a specific region. See, yeah, already we have seen, no, what were the 4 major kingdoms emerged during the 7th and 12th century, in between 7th and 12th century. The major kingdoms were Rashtrakutas. Rashtrakutas, where did they rule? They ruled the western part of Deccan, right? Then Palas. Palas ruled Bengal. Then Gurjara Pratiharas ruled over Gujarat and Rajasthan. Then next Kannauj. Next Chahamanas. After some times, Chahamanas later they were called as Chauhans. They also emerged during this time. See children, though they ruled over the specific region, they wanted to subjugate other territories. They wanted to annex other territories. They wanted to capture their neighboring territories. Like that, here one incident that is called tripartite struggle. Why historians called that the tripartite struggle? Let me explain that. See children, Kannauj was a fertile land. Actually, it was in the Ganga Valley. So, in order to capture Kannauj, rulers belonging to the Gurjara Pratihara, Rashtrakuta and Pala dynasties fought for control over Kannauj. So, why did they want to capture Kannauj? Because it was a fertile land. So there were 3 parties in this long drawn conflict. Who were they? Rashtrakutas, Gurjara Pratiharas and Pala dynasties. So these 3 parties involved in this struggle, so that historians often describe it as the tripartite struggle. Okay. See children, here parties denotes dynasties, three dynasties. So here three parties involved in this tripartite struggle. Who were the parties involved in the tripartite struggle? Gurjara Pratihara, Rashtrakuta and Pala dynasties. That's why historians often describe it as the tripartite struggle. For main reason for this tripartite struggle was to capture city of Kannauj. Okay. See children, now we will see about Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni. Okay. See children, Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni ruled Afghanistan. Actually, he ruled from 1997 to 2030, but he extended control over parts of Central Asia, Iran, and the northwestern part of the subcontinent. Here, subcontinent denotes our India. Okay, so he raided the subcontinent almost every year. His targets were wealthy temples. In fact, Muhammad Ghazni invaded how many times you know? 17 times he invaded to subcontinent in order to obtain wealth. Okay, especially he targeted temples. In fact, Somnath temple, it is in Gujarat. See, when Muhammad Ghazni raided Somnath temple, he carried away much of the wealth from it. So he used this wealth to build beautiful palaces, mosques, schools and libraries in Ghazni. So at last what happened? He created a splendid capital city at Ghazni. Okay. So Somnath temple was plundered by whom? Muhammad Ghazni. Got it? Muhammad Ghazni ruled over Afghanistan. How many times he invaded to subcontinent? How many times he invaded India? 17 times. Almost every year he raided the subcontinent. Okay. So at last what did he do? He plundered Somnath temple and he carried much of the wealth and he used to create a splendid capital city at Ghazni. Got it? See, Sultan Muhammad was very interested to gather much more information about the people he conquered. So he entrusted a scholar named Al-Biruni to write a detailed account about the subcontinent. So Al-Biruni started to write an account that was actually Arabic work. The book name was Kitab-ul-Hind. Children, generally Kitab word Hindi, what is the meaning of Kitab? Kitab means book, na? So you remember that one. So Kitab-ul-Hind. It was whose work? Al-Biruni's work. Al-Biruni, a scholar, was entrusted by whom? Sultan Muhammad Ghazni. For what purposes he entrusted the scholar Al-Biruni? Because he wanted to know more information about the people he conquered. Okay. See children, now let's see about Chahamanas. They were later known as the Chauhans. Now also we can hear the Chauhans names. Okay. Who ruled over the region around Delhi and Ajmer. So where did they rule? Chauhans ruled or Chahamanas ruled over Delhi and Ajmer. Don't forget it. Chahamanas, later known as the Chauhans, who ruled over the region around Delhi and Ajmer. Then Chahamanas, later known as Chauhans, wanted to extend their rule, but they were defeated by the eastern Chalukyas of Gujarat and the Gagadawalas of western Uttar Pradesh. But their greatest ruler was Prithviraj Chauhan III. Which year he ruled Prithviraj Chauhan? 1168 to 1192. So, one of the one of the very important Chahamana ruler was Prithivraja III. In which year he ruled? 1168 to 1192. Because he was a great warrior, he was an efficient ruler, so that he defeated an Afghan ruler named Sultan Muhammad Ghori in 1191. But unfortunately, next year, 1192, he lost his battle. So Muhammad Ghori won and he started to establish his power in India. Okay, so in this you have to remember Prithivraja III was the very important Chahamana ruler. Chahamanas later known as the Chauhans. They ruled over the region around Delhi and Ajmer. See children, so far we have discussed about the emergence of new kingdoms, right? Then we saw about administration in the kingdom, then prasastis and land grants, then at last we saw about warfare for wealth, isn't it? Yes, let me ask you a few questions based on this chapter, right? Okay. First one, Rashtrakutas ruled in where? Western part of Deccan, right? Okay, then who was Dandi Durga? Dandi Durga was the ruler of Rashtrakutas, right? Okay, Nagabhatta was the king of Pratihara, right? Okay, Sultan Muhammad ruled over where? Sultan Muhammad ruled in Ghazni, isn't it? Yes. See children, tripartite struggle was for what? To capture Kannauj, right? Then who were the parties involved in the tripartite struggle? Gujara Pratihara, Rashtrakuta and Pala dynasties, right? Then Al-Biruni wrote a book named Kitab-ul-Hind, right? Okay. Somnath temple is in Gujarat, right? Children, I hope you all understood these topics. Remaining topics of this chapter will be discussed in the next video class. Until you have to read the lesson daily at home, then only these new words will be familiar to you. Then only it will be easy to learn. Okay? Thank you children.